Welcome into episode 3 of In the DAWG House with Tim and Scott. My name's Tim Cicciarelli from my country, 99.3 WCON. And I'm joined every week by my old radio partner from way back when, now reunited here in podcast land. It's the voice of the Georgia Bulldogs and Georgia Radio Hall of Famer, the legendary.
Oh, gosh.
The legendary Scott Howard.
Leave that for somebody else. Legendary.
Well, that's how you're introduced, buddy. It's right here in your contract somewhere I have around. So, nonetheless, you are legendary, Scott. Legendary calls in your own right for the Georgia Bulldogs, where they're entering your 33rd season. And appreciate you joining us here on In the DAWG House again. How you doing?
Yeah, glad to be, normally you're not glad to be in the DAWG House, but in this case, it's good.
When it's a DAWG House spelled with a W, it's a good place to be.
That's right.
And I love those W's. That means a win. And we had one last Saturday, yet people are feeling like they're a little nervous. Some people, some dog fans are acting as though the sky is falling. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But want to let our friends on the other side of the speakers know, or watching this on YouTube, to let them know what we're going to do today. We're going to take a look back at last Saturday's weather-delayed game between the Hedges. Like I said, a game that left some dog fans, scratching their heads and getting a little nervous. In my opinion, unrightfully so. We had a 28-6 victory. Right. And we'll talk about that. And Scott, help you get us through it and make some of those worry warts a little less worried as we head into the game this Saturday, even though it's going to be a big game. We will take a look at the SEC opener. Dogs slipping out of the top 5 to number 6. Tennessee moving up into the top 20, I believe, to number 15. The Ugly Orange with a 3:30 kickoff in Knoxville. We're also going to talk about some of the greatest Georgia-Tennessee moments in history. I can relive a few of them as a fan, many that you were a part of, Scott. Want to talk about that. And we'll look into some of the Georgia lore, some Georgia football traditions, Scott, for a casual fan just learning to love the Bulldogs, or those that are attending, let's say watch parties, and they want to do more than eat wings and wear red and black. They kind of
Is there a casual Georgia fan, though?
It is kind of either, one way or the other.
Yeah,
But,
I think you're all in. You're either all in or you're all not.
well, Scott, on that note, and we'll jump into last week's game in a minute, but I remember when I was given the morning show at the radio station where you and I worked a long time ago, I was from Los Angeles. And candidly, the only thing I knew about Georgia football was this guy named Herschel Walker, and that was it.
Yeah,
I
remember that.
I remember our general manager saying, listen, if you're going to do the morning show here, you got to become a Georgia fan. And he handed me a bunch of videotapes. You remember those old videotapes? Running back you, I think, was one of them.
Oh yeah, I think I still have some.
I think I still have those that he gave me. A lot of Munson's greatest calls, and I remember watching those tapes and then working with you on the morning show, and then getting to know on a very personal level Coach Vince Dooley and Barbara Dooley and Munson, and then so I am that person that was once upon a time didn't know anything about Georgia football to becoming a big part of my life
since then you've had a son that moved through the university, and you're wearing the big hat, so
got the big hats. I got the big hats.
Drawn
I got
in
the clothes. I'm in. But no, it's become a part of the fabric of what I do and what I love.
Yeah.
And so there are those people that were like me once upon a time, and here we are to educate them on this beautiful Bulldog Nation and what to talk about when they're with their friends. So that's coming up a little bit later as well. But Scott, let's kick this thing off and go back into last week's game. Is the sky falling, Scott?
I don't think so. I mean, there's concern all the time, about how you're playing, and, what's going on from week to week. I mean, that's not really my role, but it is for the people
what's your
that
observation of what you saw on Saturday? See, one of the things I was thinking, and then again, I'm a fan, but I would guess that with these first two games, maybe I'm wrong, I'd love for you to correct me on this, but I would guess that they're not showing all their plays this early in the season. How am I on that? I feel like maybe they're holding something back.
That's normally fair. Yeah. When you're just getting rolling and you haven't played your conference opponents yet and all of that stuff. And, coaches would probably tell you that no, we don't shorten the playbook. Everything's available, and that's probably true. Everything is available. You just don't necessarily use everything. And a lot of it is what's the situation of the game at the time. We don't need to use this special play that we have over here for this situation because of the way they're playing us. If their defense is showing some alignment, it's like, well, this play probably wouldn't work against that alignment, so we'll do something else, and these will be our options.
And a team like Austin Peay might not have that same alignment that we're going to see in Tennessee. With
Yeah,
some
no,
of the
they were pretty good. I mean, they were. I feel like they will win a good bit of games in their league. They play. They're an FCS school, so they're not FBS. They're not a bowl team. They're a playoff team. The FCS playoffs. As we talked about before, the old Division I AA competition. They played well. They've got a pretty decent team, despite all the fact that, like Marshall the week before, they had a lot of transfers, a lot of new faces, but they put together a pretty good unit. And it was frustrating. I think it's fair to say Georgia didn't play its best game.
Sure.
There were mistakes, and this week's game is a completely different feel than last week's game.
Looking ahead, let's talk about, before we go into what we can expect on Saturday's game, what are some of your favorite Tennessee-Georgia moments? I told you earlier how I had to watch all those videotapes to learn about Georgia lore and Georgia history, and the first thing that comes to mind is Herschel Walker's first game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us.
Well, that was a big one. That's
Yeah.
kind of the one that got it all started in 1980.
Yeah.
Georgia with the comeback victory and a 1-point win, and Herschel's debut, and some of Munson's classic calls, and
Well,
so yeah,
his
that's a great
classic
starting
calls,
point.
at the beginning of the game at Sanford Stadium, which gives me the chills just thinking about it. When you mention Munson's calls with Herschel's first game, I love it at Sanford Stadium when the lone trumpeter is playing the battle hymn, and then they cut into all those Munson cuts. Right?
Yeah.
And you hear Munson, talking about Georgia history, and then they show Herschel running all over people, and the whole stadium simultaneously goes boom right when he hits that guy. I mean, that to me, that has to be one of the absolute greatest plays in Georgia history and in Georgia lore. And like you said, it started in Tennessee, and that was up in Knoxville too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And that was the opener of the 1980 season. So it was, which turned out to be a very special year. And Georgia won a national championship, went undefeated. And that was the first game. And that was, that was the debut of, as Munson called him, that kid out of Johnson County.
Freshman, my God.
In that game against Tennessee. And, they were up, what was it, like 15-2, 15-0 or something like that. And then Georgia ends up rallying and wins it 16-15. And Munson runs over Bill Bates, and, he scores a couple of touchdowns. Or Munson did. Munson ran over Bill Bates.
He broke
Herschel.
a metal steel chair one time.
Yeah,
I'm told
Larry,
not that.
he said, hold my cigar, I'll be right back. And he ran down to the field, and then they handed Larry the ball. And in his dress shoes, he shuffled on the grass, and he ran right over Bill Bates.
Yes.
And then Herschel went up to the booth and called the play.
With the AI, we might be able to create that scenario, Scott. That might be something we should do.
Yeah, I guess it's not too. I guess you can make up anything, right?
I think you can.
And we can sell it. Yeah. Did you see when Munson ran over Bill Bates in the Tennessee game? Yeah, I remember that.
Well, 1980, like you said, a special year. Something I love to remember is when another Georgia-Tennessee game is when our head coach intercepted a pass from Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that was when Kirby picked him off.
I think. Am I thinking? Is that right?
The 90s weren't real kind to Georgia in that series, though.
No, they weren't, because I remember being at that game, because I think we lost that game.
Yes.
When Kirby, right? And I remember I was there and hearing those Tennessee fans chant "overrated" as they left Sanford Stadium made my blood boil. And I think, and wasn't it that game? And please correct me if I'm wrong. Where Tennessee fans went down and kind of tore up the hedges a little bit.
There's been a lot of that. I mean, usually when a team wins, they take a souvenir. Some worse than others. Tech's done it a bunch.
Yeah.
You know, if they win in Athens, they kind of grab hunks of the hedge,
It's been a while since that's happened.
take it out with them, celebrate, have a little souvenir.
Yeah.
But yeah, the '90s weren't real good for Georgia in the series. Tennessee had won 9 in a row, and then Georgia ended that streak in 2000 in Jim Donnan's last year as head coach.
That's right.
They won in Athens, and the only time I've ever witnessed this at Sanford Stadium, our fans rushed the field and tore down the goalpost.
Goalpost, yeah.
Because we'd beaten Tennessee. We ended the streak of 9 straight losses in 2000. And the end of that game is some of the Munson calls again were so good because, you know, the game's still going on, and all of a sudden the students started to leak out onto the field. They started jumping over the walls and onto the field, and Munson screaming at them to get off the field. The game's not over, and we're going to get a penalty. And it was great stuff.
That was great stuff. And that could happen. I mean, you know, let's bounce ahead to now is we've beat them. What if we beat them on Saturday? Won't it be, was it 8 in a row that we'll have beaten Tennessee?
8 in a row now, yeah.
It's 8 in a row as we speak.
Is 8 straight. So if Georgia wins this weekend, that'll be 9 straight, which will match the longest winning streak by either side in the series history.
Incredible.
But Tennessee has that record now with their 9 wins in a row through the 90s.
Take it away from, or at least tie them, and then take it away back in Athens. You know, I was in Athens at the game. I think we set a record on how loud the crowd was. That might be one of my favorite games at Sanford Stadium ever. Was that in 2022, I think, or somewhere around there? That was a great – I think we were top 2 teams in the nation at that time.
Tennessee was number 1, if that's the one you're talking about.
That's the one I'm talking about, yes.
They'd just been ranked number 1 by the, I think it was the CFP poll, the college football playoff rankings had just come out. And Georgia had been number 1 that season in the other polls. And then when this poll came out, it was Tennessee that was 1, and Georgia was not number 1. So Tennessee was like number 1 for 4 days. And then Georgia won that game. If that's the one you're talking about.
That's the one I'm talking about.
I don't know about the audio level.
I do, because we were up there in that corner of the stadium, and we could see the decibels on the and it was raining a little bit too, and it just added to the atmosphere. It was I've been to World Series games and national championship games as well. But that to me was probably one of the best atmospheres that I've ever experienced as a fan. And you just can't beat it. And, you know, maybe next year we'll have that same type of atmosphere when Tennessee comes back. We got to get through this week first. Let's go back in time to 2001. You know what game I'm talking about because you were sitting right beside him when he said it.
Yes.
What game am I talking about, Scott, where you kind of giggled like a little kid, if I remember?
Got my hobnail boots on.
There you go. Your hobnail loafers on. Is that what you got now?
Yeah, that was the one. That was in Mark Richt's first year as head coach. And Georgia went up there and surprised Tennessee in dramatic fashion. Yeah. I remember, you know, one of the things I remember is they had a local TV crew that would also do a TV broadcast. And then that was played back. Usually it was like on a local cable system or something. Yeah. So it wasn't the national crew. There were multiple crews doing that game. One was like on a tape delay. Yeah. So in each school kind of had their own crew that did this. And then it would play back on some of the regional sports channels during the week. You know, the replay of the Georgia-Tennessee game is going to be Tuesday night on Sports South or whatever it was. So in that game, Tennessee has a long touchdown play to late in the game to take the lead. They go up, and you know, Neyland Stadium's just going nuts, and it's crazy. And then Georgia comes back and eventually wins that game with David Green driving the team down the field. He hits Ferron Haynes for the touchdown. Hobnail boot. We crushed their face, and so Georgia wins the game. But then watching the replay, and you know, when you get the local broadcast team again, not the national, but the local, it's Tennessee people.
Yeah.
It's so on this Tennessee play to late in the game, they were running a long touchdown down the sideline and take the lead, and the stadium's going nuts.
Yeah.
And one of the announcers on the air was, I mean, they were just going nuts. They were screaming over the top of the head. Obviously, they didn't know what was coming next.
Nor
Georgia
did
wins
we.
the game and,
Yeah.
and just silences the whole place. But one of the announcers said in their commentary, okay, who let the dogs out now? And they were just laughing because who let the dogs out, I guess, was
Remember at that time
maybe
that
popular
was
at that time.
sure. Yes.
In 2001.
Yeah,
I don't know
when
when that song came.
that, Scott. How did that song go again?
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, just like that. Sure.
And then you bob your head like that and you say, who let the dogs out? So, I mean, he was trying to make a joke and all that stuff.
Yeah, being sarcastic and kind of trying to put it in their face.
When you do something like that and it blows up in your face, 10 minutes later, you look bad. And I got the biggest kick out of that. I'd go back and watch that same sequence just over and over and over because I knew what was coming on the other end.
Yeah.
But they were so confident that was the game right there for Tennessee and those broadcasters. They were extremely confident that was the end of the game.
How did they handle that then, Scott, when, their faces were just stepped on by a hobnail boot and their nose was broken? How did those announcers come back after that play?
I don't remember. I remember
right.
that there was a lot of, they were quite solemn after that.
Yeah.
And it was almost like scratching their heads trying to figure out how this actually happened. That, Tennessee squibs the kick, first of all. After they scored that touchdown, they squibbed the kick, gives Georgia a short field because the kick return team fielded the ball. And I think we started that game-winning drive up near the 40-yard line.
Yeah.
So it shortened the field. Now, we had to have a touchdown, but and then Green, pop. He hit Randy McMichael on a tight end that played in the NFL. He hit him on a couple of passes, I think, and some really nice catches by McMichael. And then they got down inside the 10 and that set up the play to Veron Haynes. But
that's one of those plays I think all of us who watched it happen in real time, of course, you up there in the booth next to Munson, me in my family room, and we had guests over that day. And it's as if we won the national championship. With that game. It was just such a surprise and such a wonderful call because I was that guy that used to sync up the radio and still does to the TV. And to hear Munson's call and to hear you, I think it was you know what I'm going to say, in the background, you have this like,
oh, yeah.
And for those, we can't play the cut, but for those that can go back and find it somewhere or maybe it's already embedded in Georgia fans' brains. But Scott, you're just so excited. Your giggle still makes me giggle when I hear it.
Well, that's what happens when you have a live mic in front of your face, and I almost ruined the call. Fortunately, Larry, I don't know where that call came from and his, what was in his mind when he pulled out the hobnail boot thing. I mean,
you and I asked him that question on our show.
Larry had to answer for that for a long time. It's like, where did you get that? And I mean, he didn't write it down. Okay, if we win, I'm going to say this. He didn't have. He didn't have any of that.
Do that, right? Do you prepare? Okay, if this situation happens, I'm going to go to these three responses, or do you just whatever comes out of your heart and your head? Do you say?
Well, yeah, that's usually how it ends up. I mean, during the week, you think about different scenarios and you think about things that you might like to say.
Yeah.
Okay, if this guy does, maybe a pun based on the kid's name or something like that, just trying to bring some humor to it. But usually you get into the moment and, all that just goes out the window and you just say whatever you're seeing and whatever you're feeling at the time.
So many times I'll watch a broadcaster or listen to a broadcaster that I really respect, and there's a big moment, and you're like, where in the world did they come up with that? And it's so perfect. And I remember, you and I, you might not remember this, but we were interviewing Munson, I think, maybe it was the year after. And I asked him that, where did that come from? He's like, oh, I don't know. I read a lot of military books.
Yeah, well, he did. That's true.
And that's
true.
Came to mind.
Plus, and Tim, and this, as Munson despised Tennessee.
Yes,
Just because not only his relationship and his affiliation with Georgia,
mm-hmm.
but his affiliation with Vanderbilt. He was the Vanderbilt announcer for a long time in the 60s and the 50s and the 60s. So their rivalry, led to Hideous Orange, all of that stuff. And it was that game. You and I were talking about this the other day. It was that game. We were up in the booth. And back then we did tailgate show from the field.
Yeah.
So everybody that was doing tailgate show was down on the field. Larry and I were in the booth doing our portion. And it was, I don't know, it was during one of the breaks or something. We're up there getting all our papers together, getting our prep done. And the Tennessee band had filed into the stadium. And very large band, very loud band, and especially in that setting. And they fired up Rocky Top for the first time. And, and it was so loud, my goodness. And I looked over at Larry and he's looking over at me, and then he just gives them the finger from the radio booth. He just flipped them off and he looks at me and kind of smiles a little bit. It's like, nobody saw that but us. But that was how he felt.
Yes.
That was how he felt about Tennessee and that song.
So we all feel about Tennessee in that song. We used to play it, if you remember, and then I'd blow it up. I had this sound effect.
Oh, it's good. You need to bring that
back, don't I? I gotta go find that old cart or recreate when that Rocky Top kicks in, and then we just explode it. Well,
y'all have that radio museum in the back of the studio there.
We do. For those that have come to visit us at my country,
which is really cool. I mean, that
right.
Old time radio, man. I mean, and that was really neat when I came up to see you a few weeks ago, and you gave me the tour back there. It's like, wow, this is awesome. Because we used to use a lot of that equipment.
100%. I still have those carts and some of those things. So just for those that have never been, and most haven't, but at our My Country 99.3 studios in Cornelia in Habersham County, we've been around since the 50s, and there is a beautiful, pristine, almost as if we could still use it today, a studio of what radio looked like back then. And I knew you'd get a kick out of it, as I do. I walk back there from time to time just to look at it because it's.
Yeah, I wanted to start blade editing on the reel-to-reel machine. It's like, oh man, this brings back memories.
Oh, some inside radio humor. Our old radio geeks will enjoy that. But yes, and I was hoping you'd share that story because those are things that not everybody knows about Larry Munson and your relationship and what took place up in the booth back in those days. But let's look ahead to this Saturday, Scott. SEC opener up there at Rocky Top, Neyland Stadium, tough environment. Gunnar Stockton's first big road game as QB1 in an SEC play like this. What are we looking forward to? What do you think?
Well, that's the $1 million question. I hope we play well. I hope we've worked some of the kinks out from the first 2 weeks. We've traditionally played well there since Kirby's been the head coach. In fact, he has 0 losses in Knoxville as Georgia's head coach. So, that's what all us Georgia fans are looking for. We're looking for another win. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to get it, but I hope this team plays very well and they can come together as one unit. It's going to be a hard game, certainly. So just, hope for the best. And I'm sure these guys have prepped hard all week long. And, I'm not going to make a prediction because I'm terrible at that. I had my two easy predictions in week 1 and 2. So that's it for the year.
That's it. You're done. I mean,
the rest of the year, I hope we win all the games. That's my prediction.
Not looking for predictions, but looking for like how the team is feeling. Like coming off of last Saturday, it seems kind of like it was a big doo. You know what I mean? It was. It was a big win. The score said it was big, but going into this, I don't know. I'm pretty excited, honestly. I'm glad we're going to be facing a tough team. I'm glad it's Tennessee, and I'm ready as a fan to see what we're made of on Saturday.
And I think if you're a competitor and you're on the team, they feel exactly the same way. It's like, all right, this is big boy football now in the conference,
On the road.
against the rival, on the road, all of that stuff. You throw it all into one big bowl and mix it up, and what comes out, hopefully it's a beautiful cake with a big G on top. So,
Let's go.
but I think you're right. As a competitor, and you played sports, I mean, when the level of competition is increased, so is your desire to compete and win the game and do your best and all of those things. So I think that's what we'll see out of the Dogs this week. And like I said, it's a hostile environment. That place is extremely loud. It's really loud, and I think they make it extra loud too. I think they
pipe in
think
some
they have
music or
I think they mic the band or something down there, but there always just seems this flood of noise that just propels up to the press box, and we're on the very top up there, so it's a long way down. You're almost directly on top of the play of the field. It's a tough view, but if you've got binoculars and good spotters, then you can get it figured out. But
and you do.
It's exciting. It's exciting for the opener, and Georgia fans should have a good time on Saturday and tune into the game and cheer on the Dogs.
All right. And then turn your radio up and your TV down so you could hear Scott Howard call the play. And who knows, maybe make a legendary call. You never know what's going to happen in this situation. Scott, thanks for being with us. We're going to jump into a new day with this podcast. We're going to release it at the beginning of the week, starting next week, as we prepare for a bye week, right? So we'll spend a little bit of time looking back at this game next week, and we have a brand new sponsor we're going to be introducing next week to this podcast. So a few changes, a lot of exciting changes. Want to wish you a great road trip, a great call, and go Dogs.
See you, Timmy. So long, everybody.